listening to your brain on air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Słuchasz swojego mózgu na powietrzu. Program zacznie się wkrótce. Ciesz się.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I am your host, Ollie Volt Larson. And I just want to say it, guys. Unfortunately, dinner parties can't always go the way that we plan them to, right? I would have warned the Trump administration of that had I known that it could have gone so poorly. Yeesh, folks, if you have not heard, yeesh is the best way to describe the White House Correspondents' dinner. It didn't go as planned, unfortunately. Panic and chaos erupted. White House Hilton, Saturday night. A gunman, unfortunately, if you haven't heard, here's the tea, attempted to storm the White House Correspondents' dinner, marking one of the most significant security breaches in the event's history at approximately 8:36 p.m. While guests were finishing their salads, 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen allegedly charged through security checkpoints. I don't think we have to say allegedly anymore here, folks. Near the subterranean ballroom, armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. Allen reportedly fired several shots, striking a Secret Service agent in his bulletproof vest before being tackled to the ground by law enforcement. At least it hit him in the fucking vest. That's great. Folks, listen. I've had bad dinner parties. We've had bad guests. I've had bad arguments break out at dinner. Listen, we've all had our fair share of dinner parties that haven't gone well. This man probably perfectly understands that. Inside the ballroom, the scene was of confusion and fear. Secret Service agents shouted, "Shots fired!" President Donald Trump, First Lady Melania, and Vice President J.D. Vance were swiftly surrounded and rushed off the stage to secure the holding area. Many of the 2,600, not 6,000 attendees, including high-level cabinet members and prominent journalists, dived under tables for cover as armed tactical teams in heavy gear moved through the room, while the suspect was apprehended in the lobby area and never breached the ballroom doors, thank God. The sound of confrontation echoed through the venue, and it left everybody, some of the nation's most powerful political and media elite, in a state of shock. So, we do have an ID on the suspect. An educator from Torrance, Florida, is currently in federal custody, and he will be arraigned this Monday, today. Federal investigators have recovered his manifesto at a hotel, in which Allen allegedly identified himself as a friendly federal assassin. What is that? What is a friendly federal assassin? I've only met the deranged ones, and a detailed plan to target members of Trump's administration. According to the FBI, the 31-year-old traveled by train from Los Angeles to D.C. Damn, guys. I've known train riders. I know some people who, I knew someone who bussed all the way from Michigan to Minnesota. It's to travel by states, by bus, to me is nuts. Some people have it in their blood. I can't handle that sort of thing. It's the rat infested, not even necessarily, that's more subway aligned, but the rats are the people. The people are rat-like in those areas, unfortunately. We have President Trump coming out undeterred, holding a press conference just 2 hours later. He praised the Secret Service agents for their impactful response and even joked that the profession of presidency is a dangerous business. Well, it's actually one of the most dangerous. If you measure it out percentage-wise, I don't know that there's one that's higher. You know what I mean? A lot of people have died in office. Let's get a little bit of ABC News as the mainstream media. People are already, by the way, I'm just going to address it right now. People are already out here saying that this might be faked. Listen, people take attempts on the president's life a lot. We generally don't either hear about it. We don't hear about it because they are unsuccessful, because they managed not to break through the gates. Someone tried to kill him not so long ago, literally last year. So what I'm trying to say is, in terms of this being a false flag, maybe it's in order to gym up some support for the Iran war. Maybe they're going to go, oh, in his manifesto, he said, I did this because I secretly love the Persian people and I hate the United States. So maybe, if you wanted to be an 8th grader level at reading, deep underlying whatevers, then it would be a reasonable plan. But I just don't know that they would be willing to launch that false flag. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that it's a false flag. However, I'm open to evidence. I'm open to any sort of thing that people want to present. You know what I mean? If they have, I know Erica Kirk was there and people wanted to point at her and go like, oh, she's crying, she's making it all about herself. It's weird she was crying more then than when her husband died. She was just like, I just want to go home. It's like, all right, we get it. Listen. It's an interesting time to be alive. There's people bum rushing the White House Correspondents' dinner with a shotgun ready to, in their mind, live out a Red Dead Redemption style fantasy where they're going to blow everybody's heads off, but then they quickly get reality met, with Secret Service agents going, we have a bulletproof vest, and then he goes, shit, and then he gets tackled. It's a whole thing. Let's get a little bit from ABC News.
Terrifying really is the right word for this. It was a chaotic and confusing scene. The dinner had just gotten underway. The first time Trump has ever attended as president. I was sitting about 20 feet from him when all of us in the room heard that loud bang. The president later saying he initially thought that a tray had dropped, but it was immediately clear that that was not the case, as Secret Service agents in full tactical gear, their guns drawn, swarmed in to protect the president.
I mean, it's just kind of cringe. The whole event is kind of cringe. Like J.D. Vance, when this guy comes up to him and pulls him off the stage or whatever, he looks like Elmer Fudd. You know what I mean? He looks kind of silly with the way that he moves. He doesn't move like I from what I'm familiar with. He was in the military, right? J.D. Vance was like a Marine or something, a former Marine. Apparently, he's just like this big man's man. But like when he was scurrying away, it looked like scurrying. Is what I'm trying to say.
Overnight chaos at the White House Correspondents' dinner, moments after it began. Law enforcement storming the stage, an agent throwing his body in front of President Trump. It was just after 8:30 p.m., just moments after the national anthem was played at the annual event. The night's performer, Oz the Mentalist, seen talking to President Trump and the First Lady when agents in tactical gear swarmed in to secure the room. Melania Trump visibly shocked, appearing to mouth, "What happened?" Secret Service agents, their weapons drawn, rushing Trump off stage. Some 2,600 guests packed into the ballroom at the Washington Hilton.
You can see one guy continues to eat his salad, which a lot of people have pointed out. Listen, evidence for them faking it? Maybe. When they go, oh, this guy, he doesn't even move. If it was a real shooting, someone would have been terrified. Then again, some old men will just go ahead and say, fuck it. If a bullet hits me, a bullet hits me. I like this Caesar.
Diving to the ground, ducking under tables. Among the many journalists there, our team here at ABC. Certainly a very unsettling scene. Just a few moments into this dinner. But again, we're all just trying to piece together what exactly just happened here.
I'll tell you, I've not seen moments like this since I was with the president in Butler, Pennsylvania during that attempted assassination.
Members of the administration, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Marco Rubio, and Pete Hegseth, all evacuated. FBI Director Kash Patel right there too.
Getting a drink.
Just outside the ballroom, law enforcement say the alleged attacker charged past the security checkpoint. You see him here in this video posted by the president on social media. Secret Service racing to take him down and quickly apprehending him. Seen in this photo, also released by the president. One officer shot and taken to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
We do know that a U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division officer was struck in his vest. He was transported to a local hospital for treatment. The suspect in this case, he was not struck by gunfire.
The president speaking at the White House a short while later, describing the moment.
I heard a noise and sort of thought it was a tray. I thought it was a tray going down. I've heard that many times, and it was a pretty loud noise. And it was from quite far away. He hadn't reached the area at all.
Officials say the alleged gunman had a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives as he charged toward the ballroom. That man, now identified as 31-year-old Cole Allen. Overnight, SWAT teams, FBI, and local law enforcement swarming his home in California.
Clearly, things are escalating now that we have this light kind of on that second floor window there and a laser being pointed at the doorbell.
ABC News learning authorities believe Allen booked a room at the Hilton early this month. Officials say he allegedly previously made reference to targeting administration officials, but was not specific. The president determined, vowing to hold the event in the coming weeks.
Very much wanted to continue it because I don't like to let these sick people, these thugs, these horrible, change the fabric of our life, change the course of what we do.
Now, the president himself, personally, and the country are unfortunately all too familiar now with political violence. Trump was pressed about his own security posture, but he says he's not reconsidering attending events like this in the future, saying if he were to make changes, he essentially wouldn't be able to attend anything.
Well, at a certain point, you'd be letting them win. You know what I mean? You're the president. You have to be showing up in public. You can't Biden it out. You know what I mean? You don't have the mental fragility. Maybe that you have some evidence of that, but when it comes to the physical fragility, we see the cockroachiness of Donald Trump, where he, no matter how old he gets, no matter how much shit he puts in his body, eats, he manages to look exactly how he did the year before. He's managed to do this since 2016 for some odd reason. He's managed to find the fountain of youth while everybody else has been cursed to Anderson Cooper into existence, if you know what I mean. Gray out, have this sort of lizard-like appearance. It's unfortunate. It's regrettable. It's a lot of because of the GLP-1s that everybody's taken. But California teacher Cole Allen, named as the suspect in the DC shooting, folks. I think, and I think this is dividing a lot of people. I've seen people that are fervent supporters of the president, who have been admittedly critical of Iran. They've fully, some people are now full turned. There's Matt Walsh, I believe. He's a Daily Wire commentator. He went out and full said, I just full think that Butler, Pennsylvania was staged. And while I don't I don't admittedly go that far because I haven't seen as much of the evidence that he claims might exist, I am curious as to whether or not he has any voting base at this point. I'm curious what MAGA looks like in the next. What does MAGA look like without Trump is a very curious question, and we have to start asking that right now because the question is coming into fruition right now. We are on the precipice of it needing to be asked. 2028 is how long? Literally less than 2 years at this point. Let's get honest and let's get real here, folks. The actual base that originally existed for MAGA was post-Clinton Democrats that were burned by the Wall Streety angle that Hillary started to a more bold-face take, and a lot of people who admittedly wanted something different from the average Republican, or at least what they thought would be the average Republican. Listen, he has admittedly redefined what it means to be a Republican in a lot of ways. I don't know what Republicanism looks like after this era. I don't know that the Democrats have a comparable figure. There's not a figure that captures the minds, the imaginations of the left the way that the right is captured by Trump. Is just his spell, the words, the mindlessness somehow manages to capture a lot of people's imagination. They put him on this pedestal in their minds that he will be Reagan 2.0, even though they were not really even conscious for the first few years of Reagan. Maybe they were born in 1984, you know what I mean? Okay. California teacher Cole Allen, let's get a little more information.
Now at 5:30, more details emerging about a possible motive in the shooting at the White House Correspondence.
What do we got about a motive?
A Torrance shooter accused of targeting the president. Tonight, we're live in his neighborhood with the latest.
Thanks for joining us on the Fox 11 Weekend News. I'm Matthew Seedorf in for Susan Hirasuna. Tonight we're learning more about the possible motive into the shooting at the White House Correspondents' dinner last night. The suspected shooter, identified as Cole Allen, is from Torrance. Fox's CB Cotton leads us off.
A night of chaos and confusion at the White House Correspondents' dinner. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance rushed to safety after a man armed with guns and knives rushed past a security checkpoint at the dinner's hotel venue in Washington. While the president, first lady, and other senior cabinet members were unhurt, one officer was shot but saved by his bulletproof vest. After the incident, the president attempted to ease tensions by cracking jokes.
Nobody told me this was such a dangerous profession.
But he also struck a somber tone, calling for unity and bipartisan healing.
I asked that all Americans recommit with their hearts and resolving our difference peacefully.
As for the gunman, he was taken into custody alive. The president revealed he is from California and had a manifesto. FBI agents raided what is believed to be his home in Torrance Sunday morning. DOJ officials say he appears to have acted alone, traveling by train from California to Chicago and then Washington, where he checked himself into the hotel as a guest.
It appears he was targeting members of the administration, but I say that generally because that's all we know.
I'm not
right
saying
now. We don't have any specifics beyond that.
Meanwhile, Republicans.
I'm not saying that there's not such a thing as a lone gunman. There is such a thing as a lone gunman trying to take something into their own hands. Men have a lot of visions. Men believe in themselves a lot more for some reason than women do because they quite frankly, they're way easier to convince them. They are easier to convince themselves. Does that sentence make sense? It's sort of a thing where it's a level of self-doubt is healthy, and women just tend to have a lot more of it. That's actually why they tend to live longer, because they go, oh, maybe this isn't a great idea. Whereas a lot of the times, unfortunately, the male gender doesn't tend to think of those things. And I'm not saying this is just, whatever, we're talking science. This is facts. If you don't like it, that's just what we do on this show. But I'm saying that, yes, you do get cases of men or a lone individual going, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to take all this into my own hands. But isn't it weird that all of these instances that we've been seeing lately, it's a lone gunman. Oh, you go to the lone gunman's house. Oh, his house doesn't have any silverware in his house. Wait a minute, there's no furniture. Why is the FBI raiding a house where like it looks like someone barely lived? You know what I mean? Why is this person that we're looking into now suddenly they're showing up in BlackRock commercials? Why do they have an extensive history at going to the right colleges? This person seemed like they were a bright individual, but seems like they were just touching on on parts that maybe they were flagged by some grand system, the test taking apparatus that just manages to flag which of the individuals that will give the government a problem later down the line. Maybe, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. I'm just saying it's a curious thing because it's easier to write off a lone gunman than this wide-spanning plot by 15 different people. But when in reality, the teamwork makes the dream work. And unfortunate, and you know who proved that? Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda had a vision. Before 2001, Al-Qaeda had a vision, and they got a team together. A bunch of Arabs and the CIA and the Mossad and all of them got together in that cave in the Middle East, and with that old man on dialysis, Osama bin Laden. And they managed to take down two of the biggest symbols, managed to damage one of the other ones, and they managed to kill a bunch of people in a field in Ohio, or Pennsylvania, excuse me. I knew it was around there somewhere because they turned around. But folks, what is the through line here? I think it's way easier to write off a lone gunman than it is to explain away a spider web style plot of things, which things tend to be in reality.
Say this incident underscores the importance of funding DHS. In New York, CB Cotton, Fox News.
Fox News.
Now we're learning more about the Caltech-educated tutor accused of trying to assassinate the president. The suspect's former professor describing him as a brilliant student. Fox 11's Gina Silva is live in Torrance with more reaction. Gina?
Well, man, it is a complete shock to many people in this neighborhood, and especially to those who know Cole Allen. They describe him as a very nice man and extremely intelligent. Now they're wondering what went wrong.
Some are for Trump, some are not for Trump. But to expect someone in the neighborhood to do something like try to shoot him is kind of ridiculous.
Residents here on Gramercy Avenue in Torrance are stunned. When the FBI and SWAT arrived in their neighborhood, they had no idea it was for 31-year-old Cole Allen, a quiet guy on the block. A Caltech-educated tutor now accused of opening fire at the White House Correspondents' dinner.
Crazy.
It blows me away because somehow he got his mind corrupted, and I think some of his family knew that things were going on. I hear they had extra guns in the house.
At first, the Allen family refused to let agents inside, shutting the door in their faces. At one point, they appeared to argue with agents. Eventually,
this guy's
both
pointing in their
parents agreed to
faces.
go with the FBI and left the property. The man they raised, by all accounts, is brilliant. Cole Allen earned a mechanical engineering degree from Caltech, then a master's in computer science from Cal State Dominguez Hills. Dr. Bing Tang was one of his professors. He issued the following statement. He was a very good student indeed, always sitting in the first row of my class, paying attention and frequently emailing me with coursework questions. Soft-spoken, very polite, a good fellow. I am very shocked to see the news.
I love that. Listen, if you're a good person and if you ever do something crazy, that all you need is a list of people to go like, oh, he was such a good fella. Or, she. It's very unlikely that it will be a she that does this sort of a thing. But he, he was such a good fella. I saw him help a woman with her groceries once. That's all you need. And then it'll help your case. Maybe you can get a stay of execution due to the fact that you have mental disabilities. Something like that. Something fun.
I still haven't fully wrapped my head around it. And I don't think anyone in our community has.
Dylan Wakayama founded the Asian American Civic Trust in Torrance. He says Alan tutored high school students connected to his nonprofit, some of them just 2 weeks before the shooting.
They described him as they thought he was nice. It didn't seem like they thought there was anything wrong with him. Their student 2 described him as very intelligent. I think her exact words were, he's so smart.
Last December, Alan's employer, C2 Education, a test prep and college admissions tutoring company, named him Teacher of the Month.
Everything is just surprising. You would think he would have more sense. You kind of wonder what flipped him out.
Alan described himself online as, quote, a teacher by birth and a game developer by experience. He did create a game that was selling online for $1.99. Matt?
Wow, Gina, so I was out there last night. It's a very quiet neighborhood. How are neighbors dealing with this news, plus all the media being out there?
Some of them are very annoyed that so many reporters, not just local reporters, but national reporters are here as well and have taken over their neighborhood. But overall, everyone is just shocked that this happened here in Torrance, number one, in their neighborhood. And those who actually know the man say that, it just doesn't make any sense.
I found the video game he developed. It's called Boredom, Bohrdom. It was on Steam. I say was because these losers at Steam went ahead and pulled the game made by the White House Correspondents dinner shooter. This is just out of Polygon.com, IGN. Steam game developed by suspect at Trump White House press dinner is being review bombed. Honestly, can I tell you this? It looks like shit. When I'm looking, and this is I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to be slanderous. I'm not trying to say anything that's wrong. It looks like a shitty indie developer, you know what I mean? But it looks early 2000s. It looks like really sandy textured everything. And the colors are overblown, all this bullshit. It looks bad.
Yeah, a whole lot of media out there. Thank you, Gina. Well, President Trump is now pushing even harder for the construction of the new White House ballroom after last night's shooting. He took to Truth Social early this morning, saying in part what happened last night is exactly the reason that our great military, Secret Service, law enforcement, and for different reasons, every president for the last 150 years have been demanding that a large, safe, and secure ballroom be built on
I
the
love how
grounds of the White
opportunistic
House.
he is.
This event would have never happened with the military top secret
Yep.
ballroom currently under construction at the White House.
You're right.
It cannot be built fast enough. Well, beautiful. It has every highest level security feature there is. Plus, there are no rooms sitting on top for unsecured people to pour in, and is inside the gates of the most secure building in the world, the White House. A federal appeals court ruled that the president could continue building his $400 million ballroom after a lower court judge blocked above-ground construction on the site for the former East Wing. A hearing is now set for June to review the order to stop the project. The National Trust for Historic Preservation, HSD, has sued the construction, arguing that the president did not seek approval from Congress.
Yeah. Well, folks, if you plan to have dinner anytime soon, think about your security angle. The Capitol, quite frankly, Washington, D.C., is also thinking about that. They're going, if we plan on having any get-togethers anytime soon. The FBI is also looking to secure the suspect's California home. They're probing for any potential lone wolf connections, anything. We're going to keep you, posted on what we get out of this story because it's relatively new. Just happened over the weekend. There's not too terrible much that we can report on that we have dug up. But honestly, there's a lot of other things that we can talk about in the news. And we should not be giving Trump. He's already a sponge of attention. We should turn our eye of Sauron to some other issue, like, for example, an issue that makes me very, very nervous as the AI-fueled layoffs are continuing to ripple through the tech sector, any other areas where it's maybe we work at a call center, whatever. Elon Musk and a growing chorus of Silicon Valley leaders, they're all pivoting towards a radical economic solution. And it's something that I've been hearing about for the last few years. You need to hear about it right now. Universal basic income. I'm sure many of you already know about it, but let's cover it for the majority of people who don't go. In a viral post late last week, the Tesla, SpaceX CEO, all that junk, took the concept of universal basic income a step further. He called for a universal high income funded by the federal government. He's arguing that as the AI and robotics field are driving the cost of goods, services to near zero, a massive redistribution of wealth will be the only way to sustain the economy and provide for a displaced workforce. Okay, so what he's talking about and essentially confirming right here, one of the richest men in the world right here we're looking at, this is fascinating. This is going to redefine what the economy is going to look like into the 2030s, 40s, 50s. There will be a new era of mass layoffs. Facebook is doing it. Target is doing it. We're going to cover that later about how Target, they're saying, hey, move to the Twin Cities or get out, bitch. They're giving you one or done. There's no deals being made. And I think that we're only seeing the beginning. We're seeing the beginning of when these computers, they're going to not only be taking the programmers' jobs, they're going to be taking the people who work on the floors' jobs. They're going to be taking analytics people's jobs. If your job involves what's it called? Measurements or making sure that something is right down to the perfect meter or whatever, a computer can do that 10 times quicker. Unfortunately, the only thing that is going to save a lot of people's careers is if they rely on their mind and their decision making to advance their career, advance their company. That's the only way that they're going to. If you do not have a functioning brain that is able to make good decisions that make your company better, you get the fuck out. Get the fuck out, because we're going to get a computer who can advise us 10 times better than you probably can. That's what I'm saying is we're in a new era. Listen, unfortunately, with the push of AI, we are also entering the new human renaissance because listen, a lot of people they've hated on me for this opinion. I don't care. I'm going to continue to have it. As humans are being shoved out by computers, AI, as they are, unfortunately, computers are able to do everything we've done before. Do you know what that leaves humans left to do? Do only things we have yet to do. Only things that we have never done before. Now, listen. People are going, maybe, this is just issuing in an era of people who are just, there are cities that have massive unemployment rates, 50%, 75%, yes. There will be anarchy level unemployment rates in certain sectors. Trade is going to be huge. You putting together little widgets and things like that until eventually the computers can do that. Otherwise, when it comes to the human revolution, it's going to take a human creativity. There's going to be a lot more people living in, I'm going to be honest with you, vans. People living in vans, there's going to be a massive economic crisis probably coming in the 2030s. I'm really worried about it, folks. I think the 2020s, we're riding on up to something that a precipice, and it's just a roller coaster on the way down. And that's the signal that we're getting from people like Sam Altman, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel. The endorsement is marking a significant shift in the man versus machine debate. Giants like Sam Altman of OpenAI have also signaled for support for similar safety nets, such as universal basic compute, which, okay. These leaders are arguing that because AI can now handle cognitive tasks, complex or simple, from legal drafting, medical diagnostics, traditional job creation is not going to be enough to fill the void. Proponents of the plan are suggesting that since the traditional automation and whatnot are going to be, filling up where humans used to be, and it's going to produce an explosion of goods far exceeding the money supply, these payouts could theoretically exist without triggering hyperinflationary reactions. These traditional economists fear. I don't buy that for a second. The proposal is meeting stiff resistance on Capitol Hill. Academic circles also, critics are arguing, like Congressman Ro Khanna, who, if you don't know, who was on it with the Jeffrey Epstein situation, only to hide the fact that his buddy Thomas Massey is a Freemason, whatever. I'm joking. Of course, Ro Khanna is individually, he has his own motivations. He just decided to take it up and look like a duo dream team with that Republican for as long as it made him look like a guy who reaches over the aisle. They have challenged Musk to back his vision with a trillionaire tax to actually fund the $1 trillion checks. Meanwhile, skeptics argue that the high universal income would create a jobless dystopia by removing the incentive to work and stripping away the sense of purpose that careers provide, as Meta and other tech firms are moving forward with their 10% workforce reductions and fueling their own AI budgets. The debate over who is paying for the future of work is becoming a defining economic clash of 2026 and beyond. Let's hear a little bit about what his exact words were, because I know some of you are hearing this, you're going, I don't think that the billionaires, the people who are defining where the future goes, are really planning for a future where I just get a check from them every month and I don't have a purpose, I don't have a job. Hear it from them, not from me.
Welcome back. Reporter panel time. You know how that delights me. Daniela Diaz covers politics in Congress for Notice, soon to be renamed The Star. Looking forward to that. Nicholas Wu, congressional reporter for Semaphore. Nicholas, let me start with you. So, I mentioned this going to break. Universal basic income. Andrew Yang has been on this program talking about it. It's an idea that many progressives have embraced.
It's not a great one.
Now, Elon Musk and some other in the tech community are kind of talking about it too as a hedge against layoffs as related to artificial intelligence. How is that being received on the big Capitol, on top of the Hill?
Well, I talked to several lawmakers who spearhead their own universal basic income bills. The idea is that the government in some way would provide some sort of guaranteed income for folks.
Cash instead of welfare, essentially. Cash direct payments.
Exactly. $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, something like that for adults and children. But progressives I talked to were actually really skeptical of these tech billionaires coming out. Imagine.
Of
because
course.
the thinking there was, you have to pay for this somehow with taxes. AOC told me, maybe you would have to pay for this with the tax on AI. And, that's probably not something these folks would be down for.
And Daniela, you have some interesting reporting about the House Ethics Committee giving at least rhetorical support to evaluating and possibly changing the way investigations are conducted, the speed thereof, and especially how accusations relating to sexual misconduct on the Hill itself with staffers might be carried out.
Major, I think if anyone saw what happened with Tony Gonzalez and Eric Swalwell, they would all agree that that situation with the two lawmakers being investigated for, at least Tony Gonzalez, for months and leading to no conclusion and then leading to him having to resign when the pressure was there from leadership, it shouldn't be handled that way. There should be a process. It should be quick. They should be able to acknowledge that there was sexual misconduct with a staffer. So when I had multiple conversations with members on both sides on Capitol Hill, they were very clear that they thought that this situation needs to be reformed. They believe that it should be investigated should there be an accusation quickly. There should be more transparency. And they acknowledge that this is going to have to be potentially more staff on the ethics committee, revamp of how things are handled. But
because just to let my audience in on this, there is a sense at times the Ethics Committee has been designed to slow walk things.
Yes, definitely.
To not be a protection racket necessarily for members of Congress, but to go so slow as to see if the member of Congress can work it out on their own.
Not just slow walk, kill some things.
A true reckoning from ethics.
And the bigger thing is, if they resign, that investigation ends.
Right.
There is no due process when it comes to potential sexual misconduct or any sort of misconduct on Capitol Hill if a staffer resigns.
Why not?
So there's a lot of talk about how to handle that going forward.
And Nicholas, one of your colleagues wrote about the MAGA podcast universe, the war with Iran, and some separations that are now very easily detectable.
So my colleague took a look at all of these podcasts that President Trump had gone on during the election to check in and see how these the broverse of these guys felt about the war in Iran, and most of them were actually opposed to it, which in some ways shows a changing of the tides against the president among all these folks who had not really been that political before, but then all of a sudden had supported the president heading into the election.
People were never that political before. They just found it to be, trendy. That's how 24 honestly began. 24 was a beautiful moment for a lot of people. It was a wake-up moment for Gen Z that hadn't already been present in 2020, 2016, or 2012. Not 2012, 2012 or 2008 or 2000, whatever. You can't expect people to be mentally aware or awake about certain situations in the Middle East when they're 6. I understand that. Let's move into the rapid fire section of today's headlines, because this first headline we have to cover directly ties into what we were covering, how workers at Target are being given an ultimatum. This is relating to the layoffs. Target is asking 150 remote workers to move to the Twin Cities or get the fuck out. Get off of our payroll, you fucking deadbeats.
Ultimatum for 150 remote workers at Target. Move to the Twin Cities or move on. The Minneapolis-based retailer says those who accept the move will get relocation assistance. Those who don't will get severance. This impacts 2 teams within merchandising and is not a company-wide mandate. A Target spokesperson said increased in-person collaboration will help sharpen focus and accelerate work.
You mean it'll actually make people work? I think that's one of the main things that COVID taught a lot of employers, is that they don't want remote work in most instances because it teaches people how to avoid working. They get one of those auto clickers. They get one of those, programs. That's what most smart people do. I'm just going to be honest with you. So, yeah. If you have a remote job, if you have any situation along those lines, and if you don't have a close, cozy relationship with your boss, or if you don't have a good thing going with them, I don't know, sweat a little bit, be a little nervous. That's all I'm just going to say, is that just have your eyes on the markets when it comes to, is my sector doing too terrible well? Am I getting cut out of decisions that previously involved me at work? All these sorts of things. Those are normally the signs that they're looking to, shorten the ship's crew, as I like to put it. 60 Minutes, Norah O'Donnell was slammed by the United States president after referring to writings by the alleged gunman. Let's look at this clip from 60 Minutes. Is it Australia? Or at least the reporter is.
He also wrote this: I'm no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people. Horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I read the manifesto. He's a sick person. But you should be ashamed of yourself reading that, because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President, these are the gunman's words.
Excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace.
Oh, I love it. Listen. I love that it's a question, and he can't help but be just like, you shouldn't be talking about it. He gets like a mom, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't. He gets so feminine when he criticizes. I get why people have this sort of a gayness factor in when they read his energy. When a lot of people first saw The Apprentice, they didn't know if he was bi. They didn't know if there was a little thing there where he maybe had a bit of a swing, but people obviously knew that he favored women. But, people didn't know whether or not there was a tinge of something, which I think in some of the most manly men out there, there's a bit of the Greek in a lot of them. I think that most of them don't want to admit it, but I think there's a touch of the Greek and the Roman, benefactor in all of them. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, speaking of Minnesota, where the Twin Cities situation is happening with Target, it has been labeled the 5th worst state to retire in. What are we hearing now from financial lawyers?
Okay, so the 5th worst retirement state is Minnesota. Now, Minnesota is one of the most livable states in the country. It consistently ranks near the top for education, quality of life. The Mayo Clinic is arguably the finest medical institution in the world. If lifestyle and healthcare are your top priorities, then Minnesota is a great state. But from a pure tax standpoint, it's one of the most aggressive states in the country for retirees. Your pension, K, or TSP, or IRA withdrawals are all taxed at the state level. Social Security doesn't get taxed until income exceeds roughly $84,000. It sounds like a high threshold, but once you clear it, you're hit. A retiree pulling $65,000 from retirement accounts plus $25,000 in Social Security could easily owe $4,500, $5,000 or more per year in Minnesota state income tax alone. Now, that's not a rounding error. That's like an extra car payment every month. Okay, so the fifth...
That is a lot of money, especially for people who don't have a job. Ladies and gentlemen, the Justice Department says that it will bring back firing squads and lethal injections for federal executions. Okay. Now, as per the usual, it's a mixed bag. This is a gift from Grandma on your birthday when she was, she didn't have very much time to put much thought into a gift. So she picked something up on her way to the party. And we have to unpack this. Silly string from the Dollar Tree. And one of those hand press that those devices that are full of, they're not beads, they're like sticks, and then when you push your hand into it, it shows your hand on the other side, and it's like glass. It's not glass, but it's like a clear plastic, and it just holds the bead pushy things, and then it just creates an indent of whatever you push into the other side. It feels like sand or like this really cool, and it smells kind of like plastic. Kids push their face into it, and it's really unsanitary. But like, okay, sure. We don't have any use for silly string, but these things are kind of fun. You know what I mean? Okay, so as per the usual, this is a gift from Grandma. It's a mixed bag. What do we get from firing squads and lethal injections? We get fear instilled in the hearts of people who break the law, yes. We do get firing squads and lethal injections for used in federal executions. Firing squads. I would just like to say this. It puts us on the level of looking as badass as Russia. But, and this is huge, we have to address this. They get that image at the cost, really at the sacrifice of looking like civilized, normal, like people who treat their fellow man judicially, very humanity wise. They're very focused on human rights. They're focused on the person's humanity. Listen, I think it's a mixed bag, but you know what? For the aura factor, can you imagine? Your dad is like a real piece of shit. He goes to prison because he can't stop stealing watches from Macy's. He has a real tough, maybe a bad leg, so yeah, he has issues with his health, and you're like, well, he's 800 years old mentally. He's 85 now. Might as well. And then just imagine, instead of telling people, oh, my dad, he got put away for life, and he tried to do the whole parole thing, and it didn't work, and they just ended up pulling him back in. And imagine instead of telling them that he died of old age, that my fucking dad died of a firing squad in Stillwater, Minnesota. How badass is that, ladies and gentlemen?
The Justice Department says it will bring back firing squads
and
lethal injections for federal executions, and what they say is an effort to strengthen the federal death penalty.
Could be fun.
This just months after the DOJ lifted the Biden administration's temporary pause on federal executions. The DOJ says the changes are critical to, quote, deter the most barbaric crimes.
What do we consider to be the most barbaric crimes, ladies and gentlemen? What is barbary according to this administration? Ooh, we have a BBC person going undercover to a reporter to buy cocaine at a corner store. An undercover BBC reporter bought cocaine from a corner shop on a West Midlands high street. The shop owners later denied selling drugs despite having been caught on camera. Let's look at this.
Any chance of 1 gram tonight?
Any chance of 1 gram tonight? Coke.
We've been told you can get Class A drugs like cocaine, you can buy cannabis and nitrous oxide along this high street.
Do you know anywhere I can get weed from you?
The corner shop, Cradley Market.
I just said the Ape Express. He said to come and see you for some weed.
How much you want?
20 quid worth.
3.5?
Yeah, 3.5.
30. It's still the cover.
It's just some cannabis, mate. And he left some cocaine for me.
Have some cocaine for me. What?
80 Johnson, 1 gram for collect.
1 gram for tonight. Cool.
Big boss, can you sort 1G coke today? As we wait, there's more on offer. Prescription drugs. I got them ones, very popular. Paracetamol bottle with codeine. These are very good for sleeping tablets.
He's just offering him sleeping pills. He's like, while my guy sorts out this gram of coke. Let me show you what we got here. We got amitriptyline. This some people have been really telling me that this is some good shit.
Some gram of cocaine.
Oh my god.
On the high street, 3.5 grams of cannabis.
This is urgent. We can't restore our high streets unless we take out the cancer of organised crime.
That's awesome, man.
Law, and it means, frankly...
This guy just pulls out 2 little baggies of weed and a little dime bag of coke. Can you imagine? By the way, this is my argument that maybe they've got it figured out over there in the UK. Maybe that is a version of peak society, except for all the Muslims.
Zero tolerance approach to the kind of organised crime that is now doing business under our noses.
Aqua, BBC News.
Yeah?
Why are you selling cannabis from a shop?
Me selling cannabis from...
Yeah, you're also facilitating the sale of cocaine. This is a high street. I don't know what you're talking about. We're talking about you selling cannabis from a high street
Oh, he's flustered.
Give me one evidence. You know all cameras, give me one evidence. So here it is. I got some weed. Aqua repeatedly sold illegal drugs to us. £30.
Nice.
Dude got drugs here, bro. Where your dude got drugs? It's my shop, okay? It's my shop. I gotta do what I want to do here. You don't come here and tell me that I said drugs, because you're actually me off right now.
I love it. I love it, ladies and gentlemen. I love taking a trip across the pond, finding out that I can't criticize the Islamic. By the way, that's one of the main reasons I'll never be able to travel to the UK, is because I know, based on how much I have criticized Islam on this show, they're not going to mention the fact that I criticize the Catholics, the Jews, the Lutherans. They're not going to mention that I criticize every other religion just as equally. They're not going to question the fact that I, am just a generally secular guy. They would take the fact that one of my most popular videos is called Iran Will Fall and So Will Sharia Law, and they would pick that out and they'd throw me in jail for months. That's just a fact, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly why I said the Muslim thing earlier. It's because that is becoming a problem. It's becoming a class of people you're not legally allowed to criticize, and that, folks, that is tyranny. Let's go ahead and hear from Representative Tim Burchett on the UAP disclosures. America is just ready, he says. This is from Reality Check. Let's hear it. Play, go.
America's just ready.
Just ready.
They would they'd be alarmed about what it is, and I think mostly they'd be alarmed at why the government won't allow it out. And what's at the base of it, and all the theories aside, whether you think it's extraterrestrial, if you think if it's something from this earth, if it's the Russians or the Chinese or the Americans, which I don't think it is, and then maybe allow some of the pilots to talk and tell exactly what they've seen. And the last briefing I had, some pretty incredible photos, and I think that you should have the right to see those.
I love it. Folks, how fun. Tim Burchett, thank you. Thank you, Tim Burchett. Honestly, we need UFO disclosure. Anything to get us to stop talking about Epstein. Wouldn't that be fun, ladies and gents? I think we should just cover our final story so that I can let you get to whatever it is this Monday demands of you. We have a fun final one. We're heading down to South America. Begin. Hundreds of alleged MS-13 gang members face a mass virtual trial. Folks, we have a legal spectacle that is currently unfolding right here in El Salvador, right here on this planet. A little further south in El Salvador, where nearly 500 alleged members of the MS-13 gang are facing a massive collective virtual trial. So, essentially, let me describe this scene to you. It is out of a dystopian, like a Hunger Games or like a Matrix-style movie. You have a giant prison block. Just picture this in your mind. It's big, it's gray, there are 2 yellow lines running down the side. And now in this prison block, guards line the entirety of the walls, and then right down these walls there is a walkway. It looks like a graduation center. Chairs are just filling up this entirety of the prison block, and at the end of the prison block, 4 tables. 2 holding speakers, 2 holding big TVs. And then the 2 TVs are facing the 2 massive rows of people and shaved heads in white outfits sitting watching their trial. Listen, I'm not saying I love this. I'm saying that this looks out of a movie. This is very Kubrickian. This is very I'm seeing so much storytelling in the way the mise en scène is just presenting on screen. It is. Let's go ahead. Let's hear a little bit more. They're all in virtual court. None of them speak English. All of these people have tattoos all over their heads. Wow. It looks fun. You know what I mean? These people, they're just clanging their chains together. They're whatever. This morning, April 27th, marks a critical week in the proceedings as anonymous judges are overseeing the case of 486 defendants who are appearing via video link from various maximum security prisons. The group includes the founding leaders and high-level program coordinators, and they're accused of staggering 47,000 crimes committed over a 10-year period, including nearly 30,000 homicides. A trial is the latest in the most significant escalation in President Nayib Bukele's iron fist war on gangs. Nayib Bukele, by the way, as a leader for a country, he gets the job done is all I will ever say about El Salvador. Just saying. I'm not saying that the means by which he's done it has always been the best, but he's certainly gotten a little bit more control, at least a little more than his predecessors. Prosecutors are presenting a mountain of evidence, including ballistic reports and autopsies, to argue that MS-13 functioned as a parallel state that terrorized the population through rebellion and forced disappearances in a bid to settle a historic debt. The Attorney General's office is seeking maximum sentences for every defendant, and in some cases, which could include up to 245 years in prison. Listen, do some of these guys look like they were somebody's baby at one point? Do some of these not armed, but do some of these hardened, tatted up criminals make some women feel maternal? Absolutely. Some of these people, they have faces that you would look at and you'd be like, that's my son. But I encourage many of you of the caring dialect of interacting with other individuals, I would say, please stifle yourself, Edith, please. While the crackdown has made Bukele immensely popular at home for drastically lowering the national murder rate, the mass trial format is drawing sharp condemnation from international human rights groups who obviously figure that they would be the ones to throw a wrench into the whole thing. And then again, a wrench in their way is a harshly worded email. Nothing more. They will not stand in your way of doing anything that you want to your own population. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have warned that these proceedings lack basic due process, noting that defendants often are tied in large blocks without individualized defense or even access to legal counsel. Critics argue that the one-size-fits-all approach to justice significantly increases the risk of convicting innocent people swept up in mass arrests. I mean, is that a risk that a lot of people are willing to take in America? Probably not. But then again, American society doesn't run the same. You don't have American society where gangs running the streets, or you live in a neighborhood where you have to pay out your mom in order to get the gangs to leave your family alone, has to pay out a certain level of her, a chunk of her income in order to get them to leave her alone. When the Sinaloas ride up with their armed men getting out of vans and things, and they shake down your parents for money, that's, it's a nerve-wracking area and a nerve-wracking time to live in. I'm not saying that the United States is immune to places like that. I'm not saying that we're immune to any mafia-ridden areas, but I'm saying that America just presents differently. The virtual hearings are continuing this week. The world is watching to see how this experiment in mass justice is impacting the region's stability. For Bukele, the close ally of President Trump, by the way, this president down there, it is a symbol of a reclaimed nation. For his detractors, it's representing a dangerous dismantling of the rule of law. Hundreds of lives are hanging in the balance in a single video live stream, and the outcome of the case is expected to define the legal landscape of Central America for decades to come. Folks, settle it in your minds whether or not you think punishing this mass of people who, clearly identify so much with a group that they want the tattoos of it. Tell me whether or not you think this is taking it a step too far when it comes to criminal justice. I'd love to hear your opinions. But folks, in the meantime, this has been our Monday broadcast. I've had a wonderful time gathering these stories for you. I hope you've had an even more wonderful time listening to them. We will be back at it again for the rest of this week, covering the stories as they come, probably having more to talk about with the Correspondence Dinner, so if you'd like to be there for it, subscribe for more, like if you liked it, what is it? Ring the bell for notifications, all that jazz. In the meantime, this has been Ollie Vogt Larson with your Brain on Air. Thank you so very much for listening, and bye-bye.